Hello everyone, back tuning into the third and final season model roundup for the autumn of 2018. So we're going to get 12 long-range season models together for this video, and we're going to see what each of those long-range models is forecasting for the autumn of 2018. And of course, this is ahead of the autumn forecast being released tomorrow. So it's a big weekend here at GWV. We're starting off on this Saturday morning with the season model roundup for the autumn 2018. The weekend forecast will be released later on, as well as a look at weather for next week, 10 days. I mean, tomorrow we've got that autumn forecast for you. And also we will have the GWV sunny roundup, the very last sunny roundup of the year. And as well as that, there'll be a little sneak peek for the winter of 2018-19 as well. So a huge weekend of updates. And kicking it all off is the seasonal model roundup for the autumn of 2018. So we've done two season model roundups so far. First one was back in June, the second one in July. They've been painting a warm picture throughout these updates, being differing on how unsettled it might be. So the trend over the two updates has generally been for a warm or a mild autumn season, but as I said, there has been differences between the updates, the two updates I've done so far, in terms of how unsettled this autumn could get. So we'll see what the third and final seasonal roundup has to say. Right now, we're going to look at most of the major forecast centres around the world, quick trip around the world, and we're going to start off with the JMA. Just say it's going to be quite a longish video, so you can't watch it all in one go. You will be able to come back from this evening and watch this video on the autumn updates and forecast page. There'll be a written summary that discusses everything that we talk about in the video as well. So without further ado, let's get on. We're going to start off with the JMA. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for the autumn of 2018 from the JMA model. This is the 3-monthly anomaly. So we're placing an area of below average heights for the 3 months to the west of the UK and bringing the flow and the jet stream through a little bit like that. As far as the precipitation is concerned, so we see that for the rainfall mean over the 3 months this autumn, we're actually coming out a little bit wetter than average, with above average precipitation being forecast for the 3 months. There's a lot of variation going on with this JMA update. So it's forecasting quite an unsettled September, then it goes for a drier and warmer October, and then it unleashes the Atlantic in November, which could actually be a very cool and unsettled and really quite wet month in November. So a lot of intra-month variation going on with the JMA for this autumn. As far as precipitation is concerned, overall it's coming out slightly warmer than average, so a slightly milder than average autumn being predicted there. The mean wind direction this autumn is forecast to be generally westerly. These black arrows always a job to make out, but they're generally from a westerly sort of direction through the autumn, so a rather Atlantic driven unsettled, wet and reasonably mild autumn being predicted by the JMA. This is CANSIPS, so this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the CANSIPS model for the autumn of 2018. This is from tropicaltidbits.com. Very similar to the JMA in some ways. It looks like it's going for below average pressure or low pressure to be to the west of us, and probably feeding in the jet stream a little bit like that. So overall, probably favouring a fairly unsettled autumn with CANSIPS. Temperature anomalies are coming out above average. A milder than average autumn is being predicted there and across much of Europe as well through this autumn. So above average temperatures. Precipitation wise, we're coming out close to average really, so not a big deviation. It does look as though France could be in for a rather wetter than average autumn, though. And possibly to the south of England, a little bit wetter than average as well. But I think basically we can say average precipitation and milder than average temperatures, with a slightly Atlantic-driven signal from CANSIPS for this autumn. Let's go down to South America. So again, these are 500 millibar height anomalies from the Brazilian models. So this one always does things a little bit differently. Blue will be extrapolating to above average heights, which is high pressure, and then the brighter colours, which are kind of like yellow, orange, and ultimately red, they're extrapolating to below average heights, which is low pressure. So blue is above average, high pressure, yellow, orange, and red is below average, which is low pressure. So the Brazilian model is forecasting an area of above average heights to be the central part of the Atlantic, and low pressure looks like it's to our north, and probably a bit of an influence from a jet stream coming through the country, rather like that as well. So the temperature anomaly, again, 3 out of 3 so far, above average temperatures being forecast for the autumn of 2018 from the Brazilian model, but also wet. It's going for a much wetter than an average autumn across many sort of northern parts of Europe, around the UK, to the south of Scandinavia, as well. So it's a wet precipitation forecast above average for the autumn, but also warmer than average in again a rather Atlantic driven autumn pattern. We're going to NASA next. So we're doing all of the Americas together. We've gone from Canada down to Brazil, and now we're into the United States, and we're looking at the experimental NASA model. So we begin with temperature anomalies for the autumn of 2018 from NASA, and overall coming out a little bit milder than average this autumn. Above average temperature anomalies being predicted there from the NASA model. This one a little bit different. It's also going a bit drier than average as well, with those blue colours there across Northern Europe, and the British Isles is included in that. So warmer but also drier than average autumn. We can't say what kind of pattern will be causing that, because we can't show you a 500 millibar height anomaly or a mean sea level pressure anomaly with the NASA model now, unfortunately. This is the IRI probability forecast for the autumn of 2018. So this is the International Research Institute for Climate and Society from Earth Institute and Columbia University. This is a probability forecast, so it's not actually a temperature anomaly as such. This is using whatever methodology they use. I'm just not sure what methodology is that this comes from, but this is the probability in terms of temperature and precipitation from the IRI for the autumn 2018, and overall it's coming out around average really for much of Europe through the course of this autumn. So it hasn't got a probability of being cooler than average or colder than average, but neither is there a probability of being warmer than average. It's just coming out with sort of average temperature probabilities across much of Europe. The UK and Ireland is included in that as well. Precipitation wise varies from area to area, but I think overall for the northwest of Europe anyway, we're possibly favouring above normal probability for the precipitation this autumn. So perhaps a little bit more on the unsettled side overall for kind of the northwest of Europe, although we have got these drier areas included as well. Scandinavia, central Scandinavia has probability being dry than average. Ireland, perhaps a little bit probability there being dry than average. Also Iceland as well. So some areas are coming out a bit drier than average with the probability this autumn. But I think overall much of northwestern Europe probably comes out with slightly above average rainfall probabilities this autumn. These are the analogues from Patal Peng. So Patal Peng is doing something a little bit different. Again, this is an analogues-based forecast using sea surface temperature anomalies across the Earth. So Patal has looked at the sea surface temperature anomalies during July, and then from those sea surface temperature anomalies gone back to have a look at past years with a similar sea surface temperature anomaly profile, and then has created an analog space forecast of what those sea surface temperature anomalies could mean going forward. So this is the 200 millibar height anomaly for the autumn of 2018. Going for a rather Atlantic-driven autumn, we've got quite a strong ridge here from the Azores into southern Europe, and then we've got this area of below average heights in the central part of the Atlantic. We've also got above average heights sitting over to our east over there. So it looks like we're in a bit of an Atlantic flow. Bring the jet stream into the UK. You would expect that to be quite an unsettled and potentially fairly wet autumn. Temperature anomalies with Batal-Peng's analogues are coming out warmer than average and milder than average autumn is being predicted for the UK, and also if we change the colour you can see most of Europe is being predicted to have above average temperatures this autumn as well, but a wet autumn with above average precipitation for the UK and for Ireland. So it's an unsettled wet but warm, mild autumn being predicted by Batal-Peng. And that's been the case throughout all of these updates, actually. It has been a very consistent signal from Batal that we are likely to have a fairly wet autumn, but temperatures should hold up quite well. CFS-V2 looks a little bit similar, so it has above average heights through the central part of the Atlantic. I'm not sure they're as strong though with this ridge as Batal-Peng's analogues are, with below average heights displaced kind of like from Iceland to Scandinavia. So again, fairly Atlantic driven signal for the autumn, but maybe a little bit of a cooler version or a colder version with winds tending to be more from the northern Atlantic, possibly coming out of Greenland. The temperature anomaly, so much of northern northeastern Europe is coming out warmer than average, but the west of Europe only coming out with average temperature anomaly. So that does imply that maybe winds are coming from a more northerly quadrant of the North Atlantic, so it is possibly a little bit cooler with those sort of northwesterly winds as opposed to a traditional zonal, mild zonal southwesterly. Precipitation wise, close to average for much of northern Europe, but I think overall hinting at being again a little bit on the wetter than average side. It's a bit wetter than average for southern Norway, for Denmark, for the Low Countries, for Scotland. So if anything, northern Europe is hinted at to be a little bit on the wetter than average side through this autumn. Spain and Portugal are coming out drier than average, so presumably some sort of high pressure down there. A relatively unsettled autumn is likely, therefore, I think, with CFS-V2, but a cooler variety or a colder variety of unsettled weather. This is mean sea level pressure from Meteo France, courtesy of the Copernicus website for the autumn of 2018, and we see that Meteo France season model is going for a rather unsettled autumn. Actually, we've got below average pressure, low pressure is to the north of the country, higher pressure is down towards the southwest, and so again, probably bringing the jet stream through a little bit like that. It looks relatively unsettled signal in terms of the mean sea level pressure anomaly for this autumn with Meteo France. The temperature anomaly from Meteo France of the autumn of 2018 coming out above average for much of the UK and also for much of Europe as well. Actually, the UK and Ireland perched out on the western side, and France too, one of the cooler places in Europe, but still generally coming out a little bit above average with those temperature anomalies. But the real warmer than average temperature anomalies are actually over across central and eastern parts of Europe. And then precipitation is coming out like this for the autumn of 2018. So not a big deviation either way, but I think overall probably hinting at being a little bit wetter than average for northern parts of Europe, if anything. But it isn't a big deviation. ECMWF looks a little bit different compared to anything that we've seen so far with its mean sea level pressure anomaly for the autumn, because it has above average heights to the north. So going up towards the northern Atlantic in towards Greenland, there's some areas of high pressure up there, and it's also shown low pressure to be sitting to the east of us. So you will think that's a colder scenario there that the ECMWF is going for for this autumn. You would think that does potentially bring something a little bit colder, although the temperature anomaly remains warmer than average for the autumn 2018 with the ECM seasonal model. So it's going average to a little bit warmer than average for the UK, and quite a bit warmer than average over across the eastern and northeastern parts of Europe. We haven't seen any colder than average temperature anomalies in this update so far. It's been a very, very warm update so far. I haven't got many more left to do. That's the first model that, from its mean sea level pressure anomaly, hints at the possibility of something a bit colder this autumn, although the temperature anomaly doesn't show that at all. And as far as the precipitation anomaly is concerned from the ECMWF for this autumn, I think overall it is hinting at being average to possibly a little bit above average with precipitation again across the west of Europe. It isn't a big deviation, but it does possibly hint in that sort of direction. Notice it's a bit drier than average here to the south of Greenland. That could be indicative of some higher pressure around there. And so with low pressure around here, you would expect quite a cool autumn, I would have thought, but also potentially quite wet. JAMSTEC looks like this, so temperature anomalies from the JAMSTEC IOD model are coming out above average this autumn. Again, it's another model that's going for a milder or a warmer than average autumn, not just for the UK, but through most parts of Europe as well. As far as rainfall is concerned for this autumn with JAMSTEC, again, perhaps hints at being a little bit above average with precipitation across northern Europe, but it isn't a big deviation either way. These models are very strongly pointing towards a milder or a warmer than average autumn, but they're still not that sure about precipitation. They're still not that sure how unsettled this autumn is going to be, I don't think. Right, so we have to zoom in here. This is the UK Met Office GWV 5 mean sea level pressure anomaly for the autumn of 2018. So let's have a look at this one. It has above average pressure, high pressure events sitting across central parts of Europe with low pressure up to our north. The jet stream then is still up there going to the north of the UK, and so you'll think that's a relatively dry but also warm scenario that the UK Met Office model is going for this autumn. Temperature anomalies for the autumn with the UK Met, they're coming out warmer than average, above average temperature anomalies being predicted, as with all of these models really so far. And then rainfall wise, close to or maybe drier than average for the autumn with the UK Met. Notice it's wetter than average for Scandinavia and to the north of Scotland. So you can clearly see where the jet stream is. The jet stream is still up there to the north of the UK, with actually much of the UK and sort of Western Europe coming out under high pressure, and so drier than average there. And then finally, we've got the Beijing Climate Centre, and I decided to put the Beijing Climate Centre last because I do rate this model very highly now. If you cast your mind back to the final update in terms of the seasonal model roundups before the winter of 2017-18, the Beijing Climate Centre was really the only model that was hinting at a colder than average winter, or a colder winter. And again, the final update, final season model roundup update, I should say, before the summer back in May, again, the Beijing Climate Centre was very much going for a hot summer, a hot, dry summer. So I think the Beijing Climate Centre has been performing very, very well over the past year or so. And of course, we're at the final update now in terms of the autumn. So I take the Beijing Climate Centre, when we get to these last updates before the season we're talking about, it does still change when you're in the earlier updates, I think. But when you get to the final month, the final update before the season you're forecasting for, I do rate the Beijing Climate Centre quite highly. So this is a 200 millibar height anomaly that the Beijing Climate Centre is forecasting for the autumn of 2018, and it's going for high pressure to be sitting to the north of the UK and also back to Scandinavia this autumn, which will provide us with quite an easterly autumn. We would be bringing in quite a lot of easterly winds this autumn, if that is correct. Now, of course, autumn is a transitional season, so easterly winds and high pressure towards Scandinavia in September is going to be warm, quite warm. Easterly winds and high pressure towards Scandinavia in November is going to be cold. So the temperature anomaly for the autumn of 2018 with the Beijing Climate Centre is currently coming out warmer than average, going for a milder than average autumn, most definitely, not just for the UK, but for most parts of Central Europe as well. And the precipitation is also coming out drier than average for the UK. It's a bit wetter than average for Ireland, but for the UK it's drier than average. Most central northern parts of Europe are also coming out drier than average as well with the precipitation. I just wanted to give you the month-by-month breakdowns of how this is working out in terms of that 200 millibar height anomaly. So September places above average heights, so high pressure to the north and to the northeast of us. You would expect this to be an easterly dominated September with the Beijing Climate Centre therefore, and that's going to be warm. That will be a warmer than average month if we've got easterly winds going on in September. Also quite a dry month would be expected as well. This continues into October. The difference is that the above average heights are kind of like sinking down into the UK. So we do still have the above average heights over Scandinavia in October, but they're also moving down into the UK. So this will be another dry month in October. Less sure about the temperature anomaly. High pressure in October won't necessarily be all that warm. The exact wind direction is all important by October. If the wind direction is east or northeasterly, then you would expect probably a rather cool month with some early frost. If the wind direction is kind of like southeasterly or maybe southerly, then that wind direction will give us a fairly warm month. So October is always one of those funny months when you're under high pressure that can go either way in terms of its temperature anomaly, but clearly again a signal for high pressure to be dominating. And then in November, look at this, we take the above average heights to Greenland. So that's proper northern blocking there in November, with the below average heights over and possibly centred a little bit to the south or southeast of the UK. And so this could be a much colder month in November. You could pull in easterly or northeasterly winds. That definitely hints at a cold end to the autumn. Much more unsettled as well with the below average heights, with the trough there over the UK and Central Europe. And dare I say it, that might have some wintry potential with it as well in November. So it is a mixed bag here with these final models, but what we can say is that all of them, and that is every single one of them, is going for above average temperature anomalies for this autumn. So they're differing about how extreme that could be. One or two are sort of just a little bit above average, kind of like the JMA, CANSITs, not big deviations with those models. Others are going for, obviously, a very mild autumn indeed. In fact, you could say a warm autumn is being signalled with some of those models. So obviously a clear signal for above average temperatures for this autumn, and they are very uncertain about the rainfall side of this autumn. How unsettled will it be? Will we just be under an area of high pressure and have a lot of dry and warm weather, or will we find ourselves in a much more unsettled autumn pattern? The Beijing Climate Centre, as I say, I do rate it quite highly. That one is going for a dry anticyclonic autumn, but one that gets the high pressure to Greenland by November. So most of the autumn there is kind of milder than average, warmer than average, and very dry. But by November, we're in for a colder and wetter, maybe wintry type spell during the latter stages of the autumn. I do rate the Beijing Climate Centre quite highly, but I think obviously the trend throughout these 12 long-range models is for a warmer than average autumn, but uncertain in terms of the weather pattern, and therefore the weather patterns bring those warm conditions, and so therefore uncertain in terms of how much rainfall there's likely to be as well. So what's going to happen now is that we'll be putting this video on the autumn updates and forecast page later on today, and there'll be a written summary that goes with it. And then tomorrow, all of the updates are done. We're finished talking about what may happen this autumn in terms of the analogues and the models, and it's going to be time to bring it all together. And tomorrow we will release for GWV.com Autumn 2018 forecast. It's going to be very interesting, I think, to see where the GWV's autumn forecast goes this year. Come back later on today for the weekend forecast. I'll be with you just after lunch, and then this afternoon we'll have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days with the ECM, the GFS, and the GEM2. But at 25 minutes, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.